Hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of Soaring Through Chaos. It's been a couple weeks. I took a break and now we are back. The interesting thing about this pandemic is that it doesn't seem to go away just like that, although many of us want to wish it away. And there's so much chaos going on, whether it's political, whether it's economic, jobs being uncertain. Amid all this, I always run into people who are creating community, who are really there for each other, who are trying to support. And then I meet them, and it's amazing. And one of them is Linda Duong. We met through a lot of common friends during the pandemic online. And Linda, it's fascinating the kind of work you're doing. Tell us about you. I mean, it's amazing how you ended up doing these things about connections and connecting through the heart. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, hi everybody. I'm Linda Duong, and I'm from Sydney, as you can see my view, the place where the koalas are always eating and sleeping. And it's the best place to be, the happiest place to be. And that suits my quote. My quote is happiness is another form of wealth. It's your most treasured form of wealth. And it's just proven so apparently now, isn't it, with this pandemic? Whether you have the $1 million, $1 billion, whether you have the fame and the name royalty, we're all going through the same thing. And really, financial success alone is really not the happiness. So your happiness is really, really the most treasured form of wealth. It's my view. So thank you so much, Shankar, for having me here. And thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. So what I've been doing during this pandemic is that together with the ambassadors of Three Hearts, we host connection meetings to help each other's connect to go through this really challenging time. And if I might say so, it actually has been really fun for us. It actually has been really, really heartwarming. I mean, there are times we share very heartache talks. There are times we share a couple of tears, but we mostly, every single meeting, walk away feeling better, feeling more connected to ourselves and with each other, feeling more refreshed, recharged, and rejuvenated. And it's just amazing. We just really meet together to play simple games. And yeah, that's what Three Hearts is about. It's just really, really simple. What it is that it's an opportunity for us to, to put back what the basic human connections need. The fundamental of what a human need is connection and joy and positivity and being together, being together no matter what. So that's the extension of my book. So it's called Three Hearts because heart number one is love and connection for ourselves. Heart number two is love and connection for each other. And heart number three is love and connection for the universe. So that's why it's called Three Hearts. And it's an extension of my book. So my book's title is Connection, the Currency to Happiness. Access your happiness right here, right now, with or without $1 million.
Wonderful, wonderful. In fact, it reminds me of another friend who called it Compassion 3D. Again, connection to the self, connection to the people, and even to the environment, everybody, everything around us, life in all forms. Amazing. Were you always the happy person that I see you now? Did you always have a happy life, or what was your journey like to come to this point in life?
I think it would be really rare for someone to have a really always happy life. But I must say, deep inside, I have always been a joyful person because I think when we say happy, we give the impression that ha ha ha, we're always happy, which isn't true and realistic. Because in life, you will always be thrown with challenges, even with the same day, with the same hours. Sometimes your emotions could go up and down. You could have all sorts of frustrations comes at you. Life will always throw you challenges. So I don't think it would be quite practical or realistic to expect someone to always be happy. But I could safely say that I'm quite joyful by nature. It's something that you build deep inside. It's got to come from inside out. But having said that, my life hasn't been easy though. It definitely wasn't an easy one because I was born at the end of the Vietnam War. So if you could imagine, I'm going to invite everybody to imagine, and I'm going to take you teleport back in time. So growing up, it was really basic. So it's far from happy environment. If you could imagine at the end of the Vietnam War, it was very minimal resources. All I've seen is black and white TV, black and white photos. I did not even have plastic toys. All I play with was, the kids in the street. I'm sure you could relate, Shankar, because you are from India background. Soil and sticks is what we played with. And I never knew what a computer looked like. I never seen color photos. I never even have color pencils. And so it's far, far from a happy life. And then at the age of 15, suddenly I was so-called teleported here. Suddenly I came to this amazing, colorful world. And so it was a huge contrast. It was a huge contrast. I was really lost, as you could imagine. Um, I was shocked, I was cultural shocked, shocked in every way, even though it was for better. But if you could imagine, I guess if I could imagine, if I take you back to 50 years back to the black and white world, let's say, it's a complete contrast. And so I was actually full of anxiety. I was growing up, I was really shy, anxious girl, really, really shy. I'm shy by nature, but I love connecting with people. So now I end up talking a lot. um, but as by nature, I'm really, really shy. So growing up, hearing the story about wartime hasn't helped. It makes you a very anxious person naturally. And so, no, to answer your question, I wasn't always happy. Yeah, I was always shy, anxious. But I think deep inside, though, I think deep inside, I, I, I was able to find joy, if I could put it that way. I was always able to find joy and access my joy. And that's why my book says, access your happiness right here, right now, no matter what happens. And that's what happened to me, is that through all the challenges, I have managed to be able to always turn inward instead of outside to my environment, because my environment hasn't allowed me. And so I have learned and trained myself to turn inward in order to find joy. And yeah.
So very, very interesting perspective. I know in Asia, we often talk about going inwards, and even
Yes.
spiritual and religious people around the world talk about finding the God within you. But my question is, there are people who, especially now during the pandemic, there's so much going on that's not expected. Whether it
Yes.
is, I know you have a relative who is in the hospital right now, and it's amazing to see you and even smile. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. People have lost jobs, as we mentioned, or at least cash flow has gone down. How can we access this happiness during these challenging times? I know that you are also going through challenges. How are you able to access this happiness during such times?
Um, we probably need a whole day lecture, but I'm going to try and sum it up a little bit. Um, this kind of happiness, like I said, is not like the ha 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 kind of happy, right? The ha ha kind of happy is like, um, how shall I say, you go through some kind of excitement, or you go to a movie, or you have pizza, ice cream. I term those external kind of happiness. So what I'm displaying is the internal kind of happiness. So in my book, I try to share that there's external and there's internal. The external layers are our environment, our achievement, our conditions that allow us to be happy. The fancy beach house, the fancy car, the holiday, the ice cream, the pizza, all of those kind of things that, make us feel excited and happy outside. But the kind of internal happiness is more like accessing your inner joy. And how do I do that? To answer your question, and you're right, I have my 90 years old father in the hospital in ICU the last few days. It's been really hectic. He thankfully he's just been moved out of ICU today in the general ward. How I'm able to do that is every single moment we have, to me, it's almost like no choice but to turn to positivity. Because otherwise you would be grounded with negativity. There is so million things throughout the day, throughout the weeks, that could make you miserable, even the tiniest thing. But I'm constantly being grateful. I am constantly looking for the silver lining, so-called, behind the dark cloud. For example, yes, he's in ICU, but we're in Australia. So I feel comfortable that we have good health care. Yes, he was in really dramatic situation. If the nurse didn't send him to hospital in time, it could have been a lot worse, but it is not now. So I focus on the here and now, the present moment. Right at this moment, he's got a whole team of amazing medical staff that attends to him. And while we say ICU, it sounds really serious, but it's actually better for him, because in ICU, they look at him closer, general ward. So every single moment, in every single situation, it just becomes natural now. How I think is that any given moment, I could talk all day long, that any given moment, it's just becomes so natural now that I would only look for the positive in every single situation. And so, so in my book, I share that I lost my mom suddenly. She went back to Vietnam for holiday, but I've never got to see her again. And so I could have been very bitter because, she did go and see the doctor. The doctor said, yes, she's fine to travel. So I could go down that path. I could go down the path of resentment, bitterness, all of those. And I would stay in sorrow for the rest of my life if I want to. I could easily. But it doesn't serve me. And I know when my mother looked down from up above, I don't think she wants me to be like that. So I have been able to have this very healthy dialogue, so-called, in order to counsel myself. So in the book, I share that we have our higher self. So I'm constantly tuning into my higher self to seek the wisdom, the guidance that I need to go through any given situation, any moment in time. So I have been through a lot of challenging moments, many. And it's through that training, so-called, if I could put it that way, that I've been able to train myself to just instinctively, constantly, always. And it sounds a lot as I say it now. I just realize how much it could be for someone to actually do that. But when you do it day in, day out, every single moment, it becomes just your second nature. It really does. I hope that answers your question. Does that answer your
Yes,
question?
indeed. As you said, we could go on and on for a few days, and having
Yes,
this
yes,
workshops is not like in a jiffy. But
yes,
there is something else you can tell us. There's this
yes,
notion that people who have friends around the world are extroverts like me. But I see that you're a shy person and you have friends. We have common friends from at least 10 countries, from
yes, yes.
Australia to the United States to Pakistan, India, you name it, Vietnam. How are you able to, as a shy person, find friends and cultivate relationships around the world? And what do you have when you say you're shy? Do you keep to yourself certain things? How do you open up to and be vulnerable with strangers?
That's such a great question. Thank you for asking that. So in my book, I did actually explain about the word shy. The word shy isn't actually what we think it is. From my own experience and my point of view, the word shy is a little bit misleading. The word shy really, it just means that I'm not ready. But the real word, the real differentiation is extrovert and introvert, so-called. So a lot of people think that introvert is the people who don't reach out, who are really, really shy. So I talk about this in the book as well. I'm so glad that you asked this question. So yes, I am shy, but from my understanding, from my journey, I explain in the book that shy just means that I'm not ready to talk. At this moment in time, I'm not ready to talk. When I'm ready to talk, I will just talk. So, and introvert is different again. Introvert is more about, you want to share your energy with the other person, more of the energy level than just a talk. So to answer your question, how am I able to do it? How am I able to do it is the connection. So even though I was shy by nature, even though I was extremely anxious, really as a little girl, I barely talk. Even after I come to Australia, the first few years, I barely talk because I did not have the language skills. I came here without a word of English. But what allowed me to make friends around the world and even been on shows like this that has a million viewers is my joy in connecting with people. I just love connecting with people. And I just love that exchange of ideas, of thoughts, exchanging our dialogues, And so as shy as I have always been and still now, when I have one-on-one conversation, I love it. So now to me, I'm only talking to you. I'm not talking to the world.
Yes,
But
indeed.
having said that, I have been on stage that had 400 people from 32 countries around the world. I was very nervous. I was shaking like anything. But I think to answer your question, it comes down to me loving connecting with people. And that's why my book is about connection. It's all about connection. And connection is the currency to happiness. When we get to connect, it brings a different level of joy altogether. It's completely different than when you're on your own. And so that's what I am. So
And I'm grateful that you wrote this book on connections, because often when we talk about connections, the first thing that comes to mind is, oh, this is for extroverts and this is for people who are
yes,
not shy. So I'm glad you
yes,
clarified, because you could
yes,
be shy, you could be
yes,
bashful, you could be
yes,
deliberate, and you can still
yes,
connect. You could be an
yes,
introvert, you could be inward looking, or you could be an
yes,
extrovert, always looking out, and you can still connect. In fact, the
yes,
quality of connection depends on how we're connected we are here and how
yes.
we are connected there. So I'm so glad you clarified. Tell us more about the kind of connections you talk about. You mentioned three levels of connection. Before we can connect with others, are there any prerequisites? Are there things we need to do to prepare before we can connect with other people?
It's such a great question that you ask. It's just beautiful. So it's not exactly a prerequisite, but it's more like I explained it in the book that when we are comfortable with ourselves, and that means when we connect with ourselves more, it naturally allows us to connect with others better. Now, having said that, sometimes we are a little bit lost in life and we become a bit disconnected ourselves. So by connecting with friends and nice people around us, that actually help us to come back to connect with ourselves as well. So there isn't a prerequisite as such, but more so on, if I could put it like how you say prerequisite, it's more like the wish to connect with people. that you do want to connect with people. Because otherwise I could invite 100 people to your home, and if you just shut yourself down and say, no, I don't want to talk to anybody, I don't want to be with anybody, it ain't gonna happen, right? But even if you have no friends, but if you want to connect with anybody, you will find your way. You know, you would read a book, connect with yourself. You read a book, you connect with that character. You listen to music and connect to that music. You get on Facebook and you will connect authentically. You will truly connect. That is because you want to. So if I have to say, the prerequisite is you need to want to.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you've done so much work in terms of explaining your authentic self in this book. You also created this community of Three Hearts connections around the world. Is there something you look forward to? What's, if you had one wish about what you would want to do, say by the end of this year or next year, what would that be?
Thank you. Such a great question. Well, Three Heart, it's only just formed. It's only a baby. We have just celebrated 1 year old. And so Three Hearts still need a lot of work. So if it's by the end of this year, which is not long, today's already the 24th. So it's only 2 months left. By the end of this year, it would be wonderful to be able to take Three Hearts to a place where the world know what Three Hearts is. At this point in time, yes, we have ambassadors around the world, and yes, we have meeting attendees all around 6 continents, except Antarctica, but it's not exactly known to everybody yet. Why do we need it to be known by everybody? Because that's the only way we could serve more. That's the only way that we could share more of the goodness of Three Hearts, share more love, connection, joy, and positivity, and ultimately happiness. So yeah, if that could be one thing, if anybody who is watching and listening and feel resonating, please do get in touch. I would love to share more. And yeah, together we'll create a more connected society.
And as you know,
That would be awesome.
I personally have been involved in things like Project Happiness, which reaches out to about 2.5 million people. And we have these little circles of happiness. And then there are many compassion initiatives around the world. There's the Happiness Project, and there's the Compassionate Cities. Are you open to collaborating? Are you open to somehow bringing all these together with your Three Hearts? And have you been doing
Absolutely.
that?
Absolutely, absolutely. I welcome anybody to come together and we collaborate, because that's the only way we can create a more connected society, because that's the vision and mission of Three Hearts. It's very simple, it's to create a more connected society. So if anybody is listening, watching, and feel resonating, I welcome the connection. Please email me, linda@lindaduong, DUONG.com.au, or simply on Facebook or LinkedIn. Yeah, I would love that connection. That would be amazing.
Yes, I will definitely share all your connections on all the social media. And one of the challenges I'm finding lately, if you look at what's happening at the international level politically, people are actually drifting away from each other. They are drifting by politics, by religion, by race,
Yes.
by other criteria, whether it's blaming each other for the pandemic and so on. Is it still possible, or are we being idealistic about creating a whole world of connections? Is it still possible to go beyond these things that are trying to divide us up? And is it possible to create a connected world?
I think this is the most crucial question that we all want to know. Is it still possible? Because we're going through such uncertainty. Everything changed by the day, everything changed by the minute. Nobody knows, I believe, what else is possible or not possible, right? So I don't have the answer. I don't think anybody has the answer. But what I do know is that if we don't do anything, nothing happens. Simple as that. So as a positive thinker and as a creative thinker and as a dreamer as well, because if I wasn't a dreamer, I wouldn't have been able to do this. So I'm a great, great dreamer. And besides Three Hearts, I have achieved every single dream I had. When I was 5, I dreamed to make beautiful dresses. It was really simple, a really simple thought. And I didn't have the vocabulary, but what it means is I want to be a fashion designer. I want to design beautiful dresses. And so I did. I studied fashion design and I became a wedding dress designer. And then at 7 years old, as I shared before, I did not even see color photo before. So when I first received a photo from my sister, who is a refugee that come to Australia, she sent a color photo home. And it was the first time I seen somebody with blonde hair, blue eyes. I'm like, oh my goodness, what is this? So I started to daydream every day. What is America? What's Australia? Because I did not even have a world map. I did not even have a globe model. I did not have computer. I have no sense of outside world. So what do? I daydream every single day, literally. I literally daydream every single day. So eventually, after I come here, a few years later, when I turned 21, I packed my bag, very brave, even though when I couldn't travel, I had extreme motion sickness. So I could not travel. After I come to Australia, I would walk to school, whole hour, rain, shine, whatever. I would rather walk than catch a bus. So I braved my heart, get on the plane, started traveling. And I think my mom would have been so nervous. And so I did. I traveled the world and I've been to Alaska 22 years ago. So that's 2 dreams done. So at the age about 10 in grade 3, it was the first time I saw a teacher that made me feel safe. My kindergarten teacher, I'm sure you would relate to this, Shankar, she holds a cane, right, to catch an all the kids. You know, she wear big glasses, curly black hair, shiny belt, shiny shoes, red lipstick, holds a cane. And I get so scared every day, so scared. Until about grade 3, this kind teacher just come in. I have not learned anything from her. But the first thought was, wow, this is what a teacher is supposed to be. And so I planted another seed in my head, is that I wouldn't mind to help others to learn as well. So after I have my own children, I study primary teaching. I volunteer, I teach, preschool casually, and then slowly I go to primary school, again, volunteering when at my kids' school. And after I publish my book, I go back and teach somewhere as a guest teacher, and I did. And now I'm still teaching through online learning and my book and talks. So that's 3 dreams done. And then after I come to Sydney, it was the first time I see an art gallery. I am like, what is this? Because I remember I did not even have color pencils. So eventually in 2015, I studied visual arts. I participated in exhibitions. I won awards. In 2016, my self-portrait was one of the finalists for Women's Art Prize on the theme of equality. And as I go about life, people say, you should write a book. And so I did. So the book is now helping many people around the world. And as an extension of the book, I started Three Hearts. So I'm a big dreamer. I'm a big dreamer. I live all my dreams. So to answer your question, is it possible to still create a more connected society? I think for anybody who is a realist, and an analysis with so much going on, they will say no. They will say no easily. But for a dreamer like me, I like to say yes. And so I'm doing my little baby steps in doing that. And while I can't say that we have created a society as such, we have started. We have started, and we have attendees from America, from Europe, like I said, from 6 continents. The only continent we have no people came with is Antarctica. Maybe we invite the penguin. Maybe we need to invite a penguin, then we can say it's all continents.
Yeah, let's get a penguin. Yeah.
So in my own naive world, in my own simple world, that the way I do things, I make things happen. So let's just hope that I can continue to make it happen. That's all I could say.
Yeah, well, keep dreaming, and you remind me of John Lennon and his "Imagine all the people," and yes, yes, and he reminds
And I
us that
quote him in the book too. I quote
yeah,
him
you
in the
may
book.
think I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. So
Exactly.
yes, it is
I'm
a
not the
collective
only
dream.
one.
It's a collective
Yes,
dream of bringing the whole world together, especially when we
yes,
can see each other on social media, especially when we can
yes,
travel and meet them. Yes, it makes so
exactly.
much sense to
Yes,
help
yes,
support building connections around the world. And
yes.
definitely, you're not the only one, and we are
And
there to support you.
yeah,
So,
and
any
it's
other
just so
things you
easy
want to
to
tell
give up.
people? Is there any
I
other
was
message
just
you want
gonna
to give to
say,
people?
I was just gonna say that it's so easy to give up. It's just so
Yes.
easy to say that it's not possible. It is actually a lot harder to persist and get it done. What I like to say to people is that, you know, you hear all the time, we can't give up. Even though with all the divisiveness in the world, I think it's all because we all being challenged at different angles, different point of view. We all growing and evolving. You know, we all being asked to look at our history, our past, and it's now how do we go forward? And so what I like to share with everybody is that let's all turn inwards while we connect with each other. We connect with ourselves more, because if we truly, truly want to have peace in the world, it all have to start with us. Every single one of us. If we all access our own inner peace, that's the beginning of world peace. Because when we have peace with ourselves, we are more accepting and forgiving with ourselves. Then we can accept each other more. Then there's less racism, there's less differences. And really, we all have the power to world peace. Because even if we stop all the war outside, we cannot stop the war here and the war here. I don't like myself this. I could not forgive myself this. You know, I don't like that person. I don't like my neighbor. And it just goes on. And what about relationships? You know, a lot of problems starts from the relationship, and parents and children, and so much resentment. So really, really, I truly, deeply believe world peace begins with us. If I could invite everybody to just work on our own inner peace, find our own inner peace, that's the way forward to access world peace. That would be what I like to share with everybody.
Wow, wow. Thank you, thank you. Your words are music to my ears. And yes, we all believe that being deeply mindful, deeply heartful is necessary before we go out into the world and try to fix the world. We have to really fix our relationship with ourselves, truly accept ourselves the way we are, both in our head and our heart, both in our thoughts and our feelings. And with that, we're going to close again. And if anybody out there wants to share your own experiences of being alive during these challenging times or at any time, please contact me. And yes, we will share all the contact information for Linda. I'm so grateful you're not only living your dream, but you're sharing your dream so that we can connect across continents and make this a wonderful world. And I'll try to connect with a few words. Gamang Ban, Doje, and as they say in Australia, have a good day. I love to play with words and languages, but
You're
that's my little way of
amazing.
connecting.
You're amazing. Arigatou gozaimasu.
Arigatou gozaimasu.
How do you
Namaste.
say that in how do you say that in Indian?
Namaste works at any time. Namaste.
Namaste, namaste, namaste.
Well, please stay in
Yeah,
touch. And no matter which continent I'm on, I've tried to get to know the people. And this is wonderful, Linda, to getting to know you and to share your wisdom and your honest, heartfelt wishes as well as your life experiences. Please stay in
thank
touch.
you.
Thank you.
Namaste. Thank you.
Bye bye.